Hey everyone, Joel Zepper here. It's about 1 a.m. right now, so sorry if I'm a little tired, but this starts our short series on basically explaining how different functions work in the RPG Engine version 2. So the first part of this video is going to consist of how to use the function, and the second half of the video will consist of how it works. So today we're looking at the spells and magic system. So if we take a map here, we'll notice we're going to have a few different functions here in the menu. If we look at casting magic, we're only going to have 2 spells so far. We are only level 1. Depending on the color, it kind of shows what the spell does. There's not really a system, but you just kind of have to interpret it. So if you hover over it, it'll tell you what this does. Now this is a healing spell because it says use magicka to mend your wounds. You see it costs 7 mana right there, so I'm going to click on it. And you won't actually see anything, but it'll work. And you can press tab and you actually see your mana there. Now we saw it cost 7 mana. So if we throw the snowball, we're going to get these particle effects, hear a sound, and we won't see anything because we're at full health, but it does give you a little bit of health, and you see our mana went down. It used 7 mana, and now it's going to start counting back up again to 10. The limit is 10 for level 1. I'm going to set up an objective on the scoreboard here. So now our scoreboard is tracking the value for our magic experience points. This is a sidebar value, you won't actually see this displayed, but how this works is every time we use a spell, it'll go up. And once it gets to a certain level or number, and that number depends on basically how much or what level you're on. I think the higher level that you are, the more magic XP that you need to rank up. But once you get a certain amount, I think the one for this class is like players set Joel Zapper magic XP. Let's just do 200 and see what happens. There we go. Suddenly the powers of magic in the universe become a bit more clear to you. And my magic XP is actually set back down to 0, and if we check our map, casting magic, we'll see that we have 2 new spells. An important thing I would like to mention is that when we use a spell, it'll look like we only have 1 snowball left, but we actually have 2. You're always going to want to have 2 snowballs in your inventory, because every time we use a spell, we will actually not get another snowball if we don't have enough mana to use the spell. So make sure you have enough mana when you're casting, or else you might run out of snowballs. And you always want to keep 2 on you. It's just a little bit of a glitch. There's really no way to fix that. But you see we got 2 new spells here. This one throws torches, and this one basically you can heal people from far away. If you want to just use snowballs normally, you can click disable, and then you can just throw snowballs. And that's basically it for the magic process. If we look in our statistics here, we'll show what level we're at. And the maximum is 8. So if we look now in our casting magic, we'll see we have a lot of spells here. So it should be, I guess we'll just kind of figure out what these do. I like this one personally. But basically, the higher level you are, the more mana you can get. The max mana is 100. So go wild. Now on to the explanation. Now this may be a little bit difficult to follow because there's a lot of parts to this. And I can't go over everything because, well, there's a lot of parts to this. But I will do my best to explain how everything works. So first of all, we're going to go over how a spell is cast. Now there's a scoreboard objective set up called Snowball, and that's something like stat.use item snowball, I don't know. It's a weird scoreboard objective. Basically, whenever you throw a snowball, it sets it to 1. You won't see it because it goes really fast. But there's a value tracking on this line of clock command blocks, and each of those are for the different spells, these included, and these right there, and these. And basically, whatever spell you have selected on the spell level objective, that will determine if, for example, here's the first spell, right? It's the magic spell that we're using. Right here, take a look at it. It says, affect all players who have a score snowball min equals 1. Basically what it's saying is you have to be at least level 1, okay? Or somewhere, right there. You have to be at least level 1, okay? You also have to have the spell value set to exactly 1, okay? You have to have your snowball value set to 1, and you have to have at least 7 mana, and it'll give you instant health. The next thing that'll happen is it'll give you a tell raw that says, okay, so this is if you do not have enough mana. It'll say you do not have enough mana to use the spell, basically. The next thing that happens in the list is it's going to remove that snowball value from you, so you can use another spell. Oh, well, that's going to remove your mana. Whoops. So if it removed the mana successfully, then that means the spell worked. So it's going to give you a new snowball. That's going to play the sound effect. That's going to do the particles. Then it's going to give you your magic XP. That's going to set your snowball value back to 0. And that's the same for about all of these. The system for selecting your spell is rather simple. Basically what happens is in the menu, when you go to casting magic, that was a trigger setup using tell raw, and that's going to pull up this menu. That's in this command block over here? Yes. So this will basically set up the menu. So when you open it, right, we have that tab, okay, and that's going to go into this one, which will set up that first spell. And it's pretty much the same for all of these. Basically, if you have the level to do it, it'll tell you the name. It has a light purple, and then when you click on it, it creates it sets a value of a trigger spell set to 1, and that basically sets your spell value to 1. So that's how the selection works. Now on to mana. This part is pretty simple. So if we open tab, we'll see our mana is tracked. We're the max level, so we have 100 mana. If we go over here, we'll see we have 2 clocks right here. The top one is for only the mages, and the bottom one is for the rogues and swordsman classes. This is because mages regenerate mana a little bit faster, but these commands are basically the same except for a small change, and that's when you open them, you'll see this is for only level 1 players. It'll set anyone who has a magic level of 1, and anyone who is at least 9 mana, or sorry, less than 9 mana. It's going to give them 1 mana every time this clock ticks. And each of these other command blocks are basically just setting for this level. This is how much max mana they can have. This is the same for these up here. And that's mana. Now the leveling up system I will go over very briefly because it's pretty self-explanatory. But basically, these are the 2 ones. And this is saying it's going to tag everyone who is magic level 1, right? Who has at least 90 magic XP. It's going to give them that tag, magic level up 1. Okay, when that is successful, it's going to activate this. It's going to give tell raw to all people who have that tag. Suddenly, that's not important. And it's going to have this, which is going to set your magic XP back to 0. And it's going to set your magic level to 2. And then it's going to remove the tag. And then that's for like the rest of the levels. One last thing I want to go over is how the tracking system works. Now, for this spell, we're going to use, or for this example, we're going to use this spell. Not that spell. This spell, which basically conjures a torch wherever you throw the snowball. Most of the time. How this works is we have it right here, and basically, to give you a quick rundown, there's an execute command from your player, right, which is going to basically set the value of the snowball itself. See, all entities that are snowball within the radius of 2 to spell 3. So it's actually going to give the snowball entity, while it's in the air, a scoreboard value. Now what happens is, that's not important, we already saw that before. This is important. This basically has the snowball itself. Summon an armor stand, an invisible armor stand. It's going to be named that, and it's invisible and invincible and all that fun stuff. And if we go into game mode 3 here, this might be tricky, but I'm going to throw this up in the air. Let's see if we can do this here. Here we go. We're going to go game mode 3. We're going to change back so we can do... Well, if we look carefully, yeah, we see the armor stand in there. Well, goodbye. But hopefully you saw it. And that armor stand is just constantly following the snowball because it is being... constantly, if I can find it. Is it this one? Yes. The snowball is constantly TPing the armor stand to the snowball itself. So it's constantly following it. And basically, once it detects that the snowball has disappeared, it will have the armor stand create a summon command for a torch, or a falling sand entity torch. And then the armor stand will disappear. And that's pretty much the basics of how the spell system works. Obviously there's a bit more to it than that, but that's pretty much the basics. Stay tuned for our next installment of this when we go over another system in the RPG engine, and how to use it and how it works. See you guys!